another podcast video for you guys. Today we'll be diving into all of the Bears news. There's not too much in the last week. We'll just kind of dive into a little bit of free agent talk, a little bit of mock draft talk for you guys with the Bears, and also this week's edition of the UC chat, where we're going to be diving into the week's edition of the Bulls games, Hawks games, and we'll give you some other Chicago sports news as well toward the end of the podcast. But let's get it rolling. You guys know my name's Tyler. I'm joined alongside
Daniel. How's it going? We have
What's
a
up,
lot
man?
to get through to this week. I mean, obviously, it
Happy
seems like a little
Valentine's
bit
Day,
more.
bro.
Happy Valentine's Day,
Indeed.
Tyler. Tyler accepted my invites to be my Valentine this year, so both our partners will have to figure something out because we're hanging out. We're hanging
out today,
drinking some beers, doing some podcast work. This is our Valentine's Day.
It'll be a fun day. Yeah,
we never rest for you guys. We are always working.
Got any Valentine's Day plans, man?
Yeah, so apparently my plans have actually changed. It went from us cooking dinner for each other to we're gonna go out dancing.
Going out dancing? Where are you going out dancing, man?
There's a place in the area called Rosa's. That's a very long time standing humble tradition. Like, it's a very nice dance place. And we're going to go over there and get some live music. They got a blues player tonight. And we like that idea just because, we're still going to cook dinner, but it gives us another little activity, We've been going to the gym lately, so maybe it's time to, show off some of the moves that we've been like working out our bodies, get a little get in better shape. So
there you go.
That's gonna be exciting. That's gonna be exciting for us.
That should be fun, man.
What about you, sir?
I'm getting a good dinner with my girlfriend Cammie tonight. We're gonna go to this place called Perry's. It's in Schaumburg. Very excited. They're doing a little prefix menu over there. Really excited to munch and get a few drinks. Maybe some wine or some few mixed drinks or whatever. But excited to get some munching on. Friday night. It's
exactly Friday night.
So. All I gotta say is, girlfriends out there, you better watch out, because I just saw on Twitter 2 years from today, 2027, Valentine's Day will fall on the same day as the Super Bowl. Yes. No. I don't know if you knew that. I just saw this on Twitter. I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but Valentine's Day will be on the same day as the Super Bowl. So I think we're going to have a lot of unhappy girlfriends, wives out there. So
I'm screwed. There's no way I'm watching
guys,
the Super Bowl.
Get your girlfriend something extra nice in 2027 for Valentine's Day. I forgot to tell you about this today, but yeah, I saw that on Twitter. I don't know how confirmed it is or not, but
guess what we're doing for Valentine's Day? I got us tickets to the Super Bowl.
That'd be funny.
That's the only way to get around it.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, that's a pretty phenomenal fact. I did not know that.
That's my fun fact Friday for today to start you guys off with this podcast. But let's get you guys right into the Bears discussion to get you guys kicked off today. So we'll always start you guys off with the Bears talk with you guys, and then we'll get right into that UC chat. I know we're not in Bears season. We might start flipping it around. If there's no, Bears, like lots of Bears news, we might start doing the UC chat first, and then we'll get right into the Bears discussion with you guys. But first news we got with you guys with the Bears is that on Wednesday, they did have the funeral for Virginia McCaskey in Mount Prospect, Illinois. Obviously very sad day for, George McCaskey and his family. Also, the Bears community as well. We did lose, one of the great owners in the NFL, Virginia McCaskey. Obviously, she did give that team to her son like years prior just because of her age getting up there. But there were a lot of people that attended this funeral, right, Dan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of
some of these people
names
that attended the funeral. I saw there's a bunch of videos, news teams gathering.
So there's definitely a lot of people from outside of the NFL or the Chicago realm, but some of the more prominent Chicago players were there, and players including Brian Urlacher, Hall of Famer, Matt Forte, running back, Ben Johnson, new coach, Robbie Gold, right, Illinois kid, for the kicker, and then old-time coach Lovie Smith. Owner, or I believe Tom Ricketts is the GM,
owner of the Cubs.
Owner of the Cubs.
Yep.
And then obviously the phenomenal GM and power of the Chicago Bears, Mr. Ryan Poles himself, was there. Which obviously it's members of the Chicago community definitely had to arrive there to pay their respects. But I remember seeing Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell did show up. So
good for him to show up. That was a very nice gesture and honor for him to show up, for Virginia McCaskey's funeral. But she was laid to rest on Wednesday in Mount Prospect. Rest in peace, Virginia McCaskey. Also, there was another person in the Bears community that did unfortunately pass away. This was, I believe, on Monday, if I recall, or sometime over the weekend. There was former Bears head coach Dick Jauron. He passed away a Saturday morning at the age of 74. Dick Jauron coached the Bears for 5 seasons from 1999 to 2003, and he was named the AP Coach of the Year in 2001 after leading that Bears team to a 13-3 record. So rest in peace, Dick Jauron, as well, for the Chicago Bears. So we did, two former Bears, coaches, owner of the team, passed away within the last week. And they did that was all in Twitter, Bears news and stuff like that. But let's steer away from that side of, obviously the Bears, and let's go a little bit into something you guys have been kind of, looking at a little bit with the Bears, which is kind of the free agency talk, Bears free agent targets. Looking on Google and stuff like that, you're going to get a lot of mixed, avenues on which way the Bears should go at free agency. A lot of people are like, obviously offensive line help in free agency. A lot of people says to cut players and stuff like that, but we're going to get you guys going with a few of the, that we've kind of seen. We actually got a chat in the from Peter. He says, "Happy Valentine's Day to two beautiful beauties. You all got room for more."
Yeah, we got room for plenty.
Once we get to the mock draft, man, we will definitely get you on a podcast. We definitely want to do it. I know you got great, mindset, and with the draft coming up with the NFL, we'd love to get you on a podcast with this, man. It would be awesome. And I know you are already looking to 2027, 2028 NFL draft, which is great, mock draft, which is crazy. But happy Valentine's Day, Peter. Hope you and
happy View Day.
Hope you and Frankie have a great night, whatever you guys are doing. But yeah, so let's get to it with the free agency talk with the free agent Bear target. So obviously the big Bears target, you guys know right now, is the one and only Trey Smith from the Kansas City Chiefs. And he is the Chiefs guard on the team. He's been performing very well. And one of the websites, Spotrac, projects that if Trey Smith were to hit free agency, which is more than likely, he should earn around a 4-year deal. And that deal should be around $78 million for a 4-year deal for being at the guard position. Trey Smith has missed only one start in 4 seasons and could be the new face of the Bears offensive line if the Bears decide to pursue him. Dan, what do you feel about Trey Smith? I know we kind of talked about it in the last few podcasts, but
yeah,
what do you think about it?
Big name. I mean, from early on, you see the I guess just the electricity that he brings into the offensive line, and also he's played for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he's been on the most winningest team technically in all of sports history, right? Because I think the Chiefs have like a 70, I don't know, like a .77500 is like their average for like their win rate, which is like the highest win rate within a coaching QB kind of timeline. But I'm a huge fan of Trey Smith. I think that deal is definitely well worth it. And there was a lot of people talking about how he has performed in the Super Bowl, and we'll get into the Super Bowl in a little bit. I don't want to cover too much of that right now. But unfortunately, the game did obviously not go well for him. Mm-hmm. And I do think he earned himself a spot on the Chicago team. A lot of the teams were, CH Chicago, their Bears network. They were
CHGO or whatever. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they were talking to him in the Super Bowl. So I'd be really excited, and the big part of it is just that he's experienced.
Yeah, I agree. I think Trey Smith would be a great free agent target for the Bears. Obviously, other than the Super Bowl, look at the Eagles and their defense. After the Bears, we're going to talk about, Super Bowl reactions and stuff like that. But that Eagles defense shined in that game. They were hungry. They wanted to get to Patrick Mahomes, and none of their pieces on the offensive line could held up. Look at the other games this season. Their offensive line held up pretty much like the whole entire time until it came down to this game with the Eagles. The Eagles just had a lot riding for them. It seemed like they had the urge to win. I know Trey Smith didn't perform too well in the Super Bowl, but during the regular season, everything like that, they made it to the Super Bowl, man. If we can get to that point with the Super Bowl, especially with an offensive line, I'm all for it. Especially, 4-year, $78 million deal. I really think this will be a great pickup for the Bears if they decide to pursue him, which it seems more than likely that they're going to pursue him. I know Kevin Warren is hungry to get people. Ben Johnson knows how important it is to get a good offensive line with this Bears team, especially coming from the Lions organization where all it was, not saying all it was, but a lot of it was the offensive line holding up Jared Goff, running backs, wide receivers, and stuff like that. But yeah. So now another name that you guys didn't know that is kind of floating around is a lot of people have been saying, the Bears, Caleb Williams is going into his sophomore year. Obviously there's only one other quarterback on this roster besides practice squad's player, Austin Reed, which would be Tyson Bagent. Tyson Bagent is now going into his 3rd season in the NFL. So, Tyson Bagent, he was a good quarterback when he filled in, but talking about, what a lot of younger quarterbacks need, rookies and sophomores, they need veteran presence, right? Yeah, a lot of them do. I think it's a really important thing. And one name that's been flowing around to help mentor Caleb Williams is quarterback Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was on the Colts this year. He helps, mentor Anthony Richardson a little bit. Looking at that with the Colts a little bit. Anthony Richardson, he did not start this season strong at all. He's,
Mm-hmm.
He played a little rough, got a little injured. Joe Flacco was named the starting quarterback for the rest of the season. He actually didn't perform too well up to, standards. And guess who came back in? Anthony Richardson toward the end of the season.
The younger guy.
Do you know how much better he performed after that? I think Joe Flacco had a great influence on that. What do you think about that?
Definitely. So I do understand the Joe Flacco, connection very, very well. I think he's still a pretty good quarterback. Like Joe Flacco, not less than 2 years ago, was in categories leading the league offensively as a quarterback. So he definitely has the prowess to try and help a young quarterback like Caleb. But here's my name. Obviously, I feel horrible for Tyson because I think he has played absolutely very well, and he fits that backup role really, really well too. I think he deserves a starting spot. I think he deserves a chance. And I think a team like the Raiders or a team like the Giants should definitely take a look at Tyson just as a backup on their team, or maybe to start a few games. But here's my name that I'm looking at, Tyler. Think about this.
Let's hear him.
Think about Teddy Bridgewater.
Ooh, Teddy Two Gloves.
Two Gloves.
I like
that. He's played with the Ben Johnson playbook for 2 seasons, right?
Oh,
he was also a high drafted overall pick, so he shares that complexity with Caleb. But also, he's a very good quarterback when it comes to like intensity playing with the ball, where he's not a system QB. He's a player that plays with his legs and his arm, and he decides how to make plays on his own. So I think he would be a very good player to watch out for as well, where he could come in for just 1 single year and really give Caleb another good dimension at the backup quarterback. I love Joe Flacco. I think that's a great fit, but I think, for the price tag again, Joe Flacco is not the cheapest backup quarterback in the league.
True.
I think Teddy Bridgewater would make just as much sense.
I do like that. I didn't even think about Teddy Bridgewater. I think it could be another good piece to help. Obviously, like you said, he's been in that Detroit system. He got signed on. He coached a little bit this year, and then he got signed up by Detroit. I think he can be a good option. Joe Flacco would be a good option. I think he might be a little cheaper, Joe Flacco, now, just because he did not perform that well this season compared to the season before, when everyone's like, bench Anthony Richardson. He did really well, but I think those could be 2 good options for the Bears. So now, looking at the cap space for all the NFL teams, the Bears are currently sitting at the 6th spot in cap space. So at number 1 with cap space, which is absolutely ridiculous how much money they have, is the New England Patriots. But if you look at their team, there's a reason why they don't really have a lot of big pieces besides, Drake May. They're saying at $119 million. And at the 6th spot, the Bears are saying they're with $62 million in cap space, which, now talking about it with free agent targets as well, like that, basically there's a lot of, words being thrown around and players being thrown around on Twitter saying that if the Bears decide to cut this player, they'll get more money for the cap space. One name being floated around is DeMarcus Walker. If they decide to cut him, it'll save them about, I think, $5.5 million they get back in their cap space. And then also, I think, a few other names being floated around. I saw I forgot the wide receiver that came in the week 1 or something like that. Keenan Allen, that replaced Keenan Allen. He was on the special teams. I just can't think off the top of my head.
Scott?
Not Tyler Scott. He did pretty well.
Colin Johnson.
Yes.
Colin Johnson?
Yeah, not Colin. No, he was the what's it called? He was like the preseason guy. I just can't think of the guy.
Was he the special teams guy?
Yeah.
Was it
he came in as wide receiver for Keenan Allen.
He came from the Chargers, right?
Yes.
Number 1?
Yeah.
Man, what's his name? I forgot his name.
Whatever. But anyway, they're talking about him. If he's cut, save like $2 million or something like that. And there's also another name that's flowing around the Bears, if they decide to cut him and save some money, would be Tremaine Edmonds, and that would save about $13 million or something like that. But we would lose a lot of money in that deal. Or if
I still like Tremaine. I still like Tremaine for his abilities. But here, let me take a step back here, Tyler. I just thought of a really wild idea, and this is an if, right? Think about if there's a QB available at the moment, right? Probably the QB that's available right now has the most NFL experience, right? Winning out of any QB. You could argue Joe Flacco. If this quarterback took the same deal as a backup Joe Flacco to come play backup for the Bears, and I'm going to give you the name in a second, would you do it? And I'm talking Aaron Rodgers.
No, I would not do it.
If Aaron Rodgers decided
he wants way too much money, man.
He's also in an edge of retirement. So who knows? Let's say he gets Joe Flacco backup money. Do you want Aaron Rodgers backing up Caleb Williams?
I would like that. I would like Aaron Rodgers because look at Aaron Rodgers as a veteran. I know Peter said in the chat, Josh Palmer. It was not Josh Palmer. I just looked up. It was DeAndre Carter.
DeAndre Carter.
That's who I forgot. So that was a name flown around. But, Aaron Rodgers, I like the name. I do like him a lot. If he decides to, that would be, in my opinion, if he decides to sign with the Bears, that would be the biggest screw you to the Packers.
It would be.
It would be. I don't know how. I know he said,
it's also, like Caleb obviously grew up a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers, both being from California.
Yeah.
So a lot of his play style, right? A lot of his the intensity that he brings is very similar to Aaron Rodgers. So I think it would be a huge signing. Again, the money. This isn't Aaron Rodgers being like, hey, this is playing money. This is give Caleb your best shot money.
Yeah.
I don't think it happens. But
yeah.
It's just for Bears fans, it's definitely a quality that we have to ask ourselves. If he takes bench money, do we take him?
Yeah. I see another name floating in the chat right now with Peter. He says, have we talked about Drew Dalman? Obviously center from the Atlanta Falcons. I've seen this name being flown around. 26 years old, top 5 run blocking center. Mm-hmm. We need a center. That's what I'm saying. Center. These are the 2 names I've been seeing.
Push him to the street.
Coleman Shelton was not bad. That's all I could say. He's not a starting, but he is a good backup. Let him learn a little bit more. I didn't hate Coleman Shelton, but if we can end up getting Drew Dalman and Trey Smith, that's a winning offseason for the Bears. That is 2 big pieces. I really like the idea of this. I know Peter's been talking to me about Drew Dalman, only 26 years old too. Poles likes the younger talent. I know that you can say, oh, Keenan Allen's on our team, but he likes a lot of the younger talent. Keenan Allen is there for veteran help, on the wide receiver core. But
yeah. One last question. Yeah. I changed my stance a little bit on the whole wide receiver room for Chicago Bears.
Okay, let's hear it.
My stance has changed from get another big name in there to nobody. To let Keenan walk. Rome should be your number 2 guy next season.
Okay.
And the reason I'm thinking that way is because I watched a few interviews of people talking about the Bears wide receiver corp, and they're saying you drafted Rome to be that guy. Rome might pass DJ Moore soon in the standings. The same way we see Jackson Smith and Jigba do the way he did it.
DK Metcalf.
Yeah, like he's now the number 1 option. So I have jumped ship on the idea of putting any money into wide receiver room. I think it's all offensive line and defensive line, which would save us, a little bit of time and money. And Keenan Allen can walk. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I do like Keenan Allen walking. I'd like to see him stay on this team, but I don't think he's going to want to take a team-friendly deal at this point in his career. He's going to want to get the most out of his money with any organization, maybe like the Patriots or something like that, because he's nearing the end of his career. He wants to get a little bit more money, obviously, for his retirement and stuff like that. I would like him to stay if it's super team friendly, but if it's nowhere close to team friendly, he's got to walk. Like you just said, I do want Rome to be that number 2. That's why we drafted Rome Odunze, to be that number 2. If we didn't think Rome Odunze was going to be a number 2, we keep Keenan Allen, we'd have not drafted him with the number 8 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft. But to finish off free agents and stuff like that, I did see Peter put in the chat, Sheldon provides you a decent floor as a backup swing interior O-lineman, but you need to upgrade center among other O-line spots, and I completely agree with that, man. Line needs to be bulked up completely. Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright have to be the only pieces remaining on this Bears O-line, in my opinion. But now, swinging from free agents, we just got a quick talk. We're going to talk about mock draft. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of talks about mock draft. You're already seeing it. A lot of different names flowing around with different teams. But Bears targets with the number 10 pick. So I went to at least 15 different websites trying to see what these websites are flowing around with the number 10 pick and what the Bears will do with it. Obviously, a lot decides on what the other teams before us decide to pick, but these are the names I'm seeing flowing around at number 10 for the Bears. I got number 1, and this is a lot of people's number 1s. Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU. He is personally my number 1. Dan, I'm not sure about you, but he is my number 1. He is a stud. He was great on LSU. I think he could be a great target for the Bears. And now here's some other names, and then we can, and if you guys in the chat want to talk about it too, like names that pop out at you. Number 2, that I've seen this name a lot as well. Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle from Texas. That's if Will Campbell is not sitting there. We go with Kelvin Banks, in my opinion. We got Josh Simmons, offensive tackle from Ohio State. Danny, help me out with this one.
Armand Membou.
Membou. Armand Membou. This is a name I've been flowing around as well. I think this is more toward like the middle teens, in my opinion. Offensive tackle from Missouri. And now this is a name I've seen a lot. Tyler Booker, offensive guard from Alabama. Jalen Walker, edge rusher from Georgia. Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. And the last name I've been seeing flowing around, number 10, Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall. And that
Mike Green.
Peter is all really about Mike Green. I know that
on social media lately. Tyler, tell me your top 3 here.
My top 3. Obviously, I already said my top 2. I said Will Campbell's my number 1. He is good. I know a lot of people say he doesn't have the, he's kind of like what they were talking about with Peter Skoronski when he was getting drafted. His arm length is not, the best for what he is, but he is great at blocking. I think you just don't put him on the outside. So Will Campbell's my number 1. Kelvin Banks Jr. is going to be my number 2. Offensive line. Do you notice one name that wasn't in this list, though, that we talked about the last few weeks?
The defensive lineman, no?
No, that was in there. Mason Graham was in there.
Mason Graham. Who did we talk about?
Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State, was not in any of these mock drafts that I've been seeing. So my 3rd is going to be Mason Graham if he sits there. I think that would help this defensive line out, and he is a great player from Michigan. I just don't think he's going to slip up the board at number 10. But
yeah,
what do you think? Give me your top 3.
So I'm definitely going Will Campbell number 1, and I definitely understand the idea of him not being necessarily the best fit or the best body type for his category at the position. But at the end of the day, the most important thing to me is the offense, and LSU runs probably one of the most dynamic offenses I've seen in the years that I've been watching college football. And I love the play style of the offensive line. So I think he would fit in very well for Ben Johnson. I'm looking for someone that can play, 95% of snaps at any position on the offensive line through injuries, through run games, through blah, blah. So I think that's the most important thing for me is that he's obviously top 10 projected for a reason. You can put him at any position and he'll succeed. I also like Josh Simmons a little bit. Again, I'm going through the idea of what schools to me speak the best when it comes to offensive line, but also their quarterback play and their quarterbacks being very dynamic when it comes to run plays, pass plays, play action. There's a lot of different instruments when it comes to these offenses. So I did like Josh Simmons. I think Kelvin Banks, to me, again, similar idea. I think Texas is a little bit of a different school the way I look at it. They're definitely an amazing running school. I don't know if their QB right now is
Quinn Ewers,
and then they have Arch Manning in the backup. So they've great throwers in that team as well. But I've always been impressed with their run game in the past few years. And then I'd like to say Mike Green would be a steal, but I'm gonna rip that off and I'm going to steal what you said. I'm going to steal Mason Graham. I think, my first 2 picks should be offensive linemen, the defensive line of Michigan. Give me that guy. All those defensive linemen coming out of Michigan, they're studs. So I'll be very, very happy with that as well. But it all goes with how free agency comes, right?
Exactly. Free agency is going to be first. And then, obviously they're going to tackle the needs that they have. Expect the Bears to, go with, some offensive line help in free agency. And, obviously we'll see what happens after that with the draft. I do see a few comments in the chat.
Yeah, he said Peter. Some nice things here.
These are some good things. And this is what he said. If Will Campbell had longer arms, we were talking about him as an all-pro tackle, plays with a strong base, great movement skills, just beats by power rushers, partially due to arm length strengths. And that's true. That is true from, the tape I've seen. And even, his all-pro potential at center, he is, with how high his football IQ is, very smart player and great in the locker room. And he, he's an offensive lineman, if that makes sense. Basically helping, each other out. And I've seen, his name go at number 4 to the Patriots, and I've seen that a lot too as well. The Patriots look like they need to bolster that offensive line. I would not be shocked if Will Campbell goes number 4, but he is going to be our number 1 for the Bears to take in this draft. We'll be, talking more about this draft, coming up in our, next few podcasts and stuff like that. And, there's so much time till the draft. I believe it's April 17th or something like that, middle of April-ish. But we could be talking about the draft all day. We're going to steer clear from the draft now, and we're going to go to end off, to our Bears section / football section. Let's get our Super Bowl reactions. So that was a crazy Super Bowl on Sunday. Wow. Not exactly what I expected. If you guys remember what I said I wanted the Eagles to win, but they probably won't win because it's a team I wanted to win. So I think the Chiefs are going to win. And it completely flipped. The Eagles dominated. That defense was just crazy. Cooper DeJean had a pick 6. In my opinion, it was what I wanted out of the Super Bowl. If it was the other way around, the Chiefs up 40-22, I think it would have been little more harder to watch because it's just we've seen that before. But
so here's the first question I'll ask you. So obviously, awesome game for someone who is hate watching most of the time. And I hate to say that, but when you're watching a team do a three-peat, its majority of the United States is rooting against them, even though it would be historically cool to see the Chiefs, right? Like, do that. It would be cool to be a part of that. Is Patrick Mahomes, after this Super Bowl, I'll give you 3 options. Is Patrick Mahomes washed? Is he just over? Or was it just a bad game?
Just a bad game.
Just a bad game?
Just a bad game. I know his stats did not reflect this season. I know that, but you got to look at it. Rashee Rice went down for him. Hollywood Brown went down for him. He did not have a lot of the help that he needed throughout this year. I know obviously he has Travis Kelce, but he's getting older too. He's not the same Travis Kelce as we've seen. But he did have some pieces step up. Xavier Worthy stepped up. Juju catches one 40-yard deep ball once in a blue moon. But I just think it was a bad game for him. I still expect Patrick Mahomes to potentially be back in the Super Bowl in the next few years. I just think it was a bad game for him. I know everyone's like, oh, this immediately marks out Patrick Mahomes to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's always going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. 7 rings, going to one team and then a team the next season and then immediately win a Super Bowl. That's crazy. But it was just a bad game for Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion. What do you think?
I'm going to have a hot take here just because I've been listening to a few podcasts in the last week.
Right,
obviously, a lot of these guys are just talking smack, but I think this is the end of the line for Patrick Mahomes and his the idea that he can be the best quarterback of all time. That's what I'm shutting down here.
That's what I'm
shutting down here.
I agree.
The reason I say this is because I think this game was so influential to the NFL that now when the Ravens watch that game, when the Bills watch that game, when the Denver Broncos watch that game, they know exactly how they need to set their offense to beat Patrick Mahomes. And you're right, Patrick Mahomes was missing a ton of weapons. And at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes didn't have the worst game. He did lead both teams in passing yards. And even though he had several incompletions, bad start, he did have that amazing highlight reel touchdown to end the game. But I think, again, Andy Reid's getting closer. Travis Kelce's going to retire. Offensive line's going to lose some money. I think what happens is that the Bills and Ravens finally get their opportunity this next season. Get their boost
over. I like that.
They just have to watch that Vic Fangio defense. That's all they have to do. And just be like, okay, this is how you beat the Chiefs. You don't have to beat them 30-0 at halftime, but you just got to. Now you know exactly how to, annoy Patrick Mahomes. That's my hot take. I think Patrick Mahomes is still going to be a wonderful player. He's still going to make a few Super Bowls, but I think the end of the line for me is that he will no longer be in that category of best QB of all time. I think we shut that down.
Yeah. I just think, especially getting beat down by, more than 22 points, look at the Brady losses. He lost to Eli. I think it was like a 1-possession game with Eli Manning, lost to Eli twice, I believe, right?
Lost to Eli twice.
Yeah. But they were very close games, both of those. So looking at that, Patrick Mahomes, he had every opportunity to potentially, get another touchdown. Obviously, he did not perform that well. I think that does mark him out for being one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But steering away from the Super Bowl, they're doing their parade today. So I've been seeing videos on Twitter and stuff like that. Saquon's enjoying it. Quinion Mitchell was absolutely hammered in the street. If you saw that video on Twitter, that is, if you haven't seen it, check it out afterwards. It is really, really, really funny. But let's steer away from, football talk for today. Let's go right into our UC chat for today. And as always, we're going to kick you guys off with the UC chat with Bulls talk for you. So Bulls talk, basically to start you guys off with the Bulls talk, we're going to talk about some news that we got today from the Bulls. And if you guys haven't heard this already, this is going to be really, really cool news for the Bulls. I know obviously the last few weeks have been a little rough watching those games, or the last week, obviously, with the Pistons and the Warriors and other stuff like that. But we got the news today that the NBA selected Chicago Bulls rookie Modest Buzelis to participate in the 2025 Castrol Rising Stars game. And they announced that this morning, which is great for Modest Buzelis.
That's awesome. He deserves it. Yeah, he deserves it.
He is replacing Pelican center Ivis Missy on Team M as an injury replacement for him. And then this is a little bit of a fun fact for Modest Buzelis and, tonight with this Rising Stars game. So if Team M wins that game out of the 4-team event playoff tonight, his team will get to feature in an all-star mini tournament on Sunday, February 16th. So obviously in a few days from now. And if his team ends up winning, Modest Buzelis will have an opportunity to play not just Friday, not just Saturday in the dunk contest, but Sunday as well for that mini tournament.
That'd be exciting. I'm really rooting for him here because I think he's going to show off. He's going to show off a little bit. You can't just put Matas Buzelis on a team with other rookies and expect him not to perform. He's going to he has an edge here. I think he's got the ability. He wants to win. So I'm really excited. That young kid's got drive.
He deserves it. The opportunities when he, obviously came up as a starter for the Bulls a few of these games and, obviously playing off the bench and gain more minutes. He deserves being in this Rising Stars game, in my opinion. He is taking advantage of the opportunities when, they come to him. Obviously 2 weeks ago, we saw him have a game where he didn't even miss a shot. That was super cool. In my opinion, it's great for Buzelis. I'm excited to see him in the dunk contest tomorrow night. And, obviously we got the Rising Stars game today, and then we'll see what happens if he's going to be playing on Sunday as well. But I know Peter kind of told me a little bit about how some of these, the chats and stuff like that, when people, go live stream in the chat, they're a little bit delayed. So I do want to jump back to this real quick before we get back to Bulls talk. He did say, as great as Patrick Mahomes is, we learned how valuable the offensive line is, not having tackles and not potentially losing out, potentially losing on Trey Smith. The Eagles really blitzed and able to get pressures. And I do, I agree. Offensive line is big. And Ben Johnson realized that for the Bears. That's going to be a big, need this offseason. Obviously, seeing how, if Caleb almost gets sacked 70 times. And then we see this. We got, in regards to the UC chat, thoughts of Bedard's not being on the Canada's 4 Nations team. Is it safe to say he'll be on it next year? This is a great question. When we get to the Hawks, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I think he will get there a little bit more.
I think he should. Yeah.
Connor Bedard just needs to realize that he needs to take advantage of the opportunities when they're there. When he has the puck, in my opinion, shoot it. Great things happen when you shoot the puck. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Great on the assists, count for him, but a lot of people, when they look at great players, they look at goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some players look at assists. Assists give you the points, but I think this is just for the year. He's already improving. We've looked in the last few weeks, he's been improving.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do like that a lot. So let's bounce away from Matas Buzelis. We'll talk about a little bit at the end of the Bulls talk for you. Let's get right into the first Bulls game we got for you. So obviously we're going to recap all of the Bulls games in the last week, and we'll just give you quick stats on them. We won't, talk about it for like 20 minutes each game, but let's start you guys off with the Bulls versus the Warriors on February 8th. And I know Peter was at this game. And if he wants to jump in the chat and talk a little bit about it, that would be awesome. That was last Saturday, February 8th. Dan, you want to talk about this game a little bit?
Of course. So February 8th, the Bulls hosted the Warriors at the United Center. Unfortunately, the Bulls did end up losing this game, 132-111. This was Jimmy Butler's debut in the Warriors, and he's going now by Jimmy Butler III, if you've seen any of his jerseys, number 10. He did play a pretty good game, but, I mean, this game, combined with the last few games that we've talked about, has been a little bit more on the difficult side for Chicago.
So, on the shaky boat, man.
Yeah, on the shaky side. So Kobe White was the leading scorer with 27 points. He was 7 of 12 from field goal, 6 of 9 from three-point, which is pretty good. And then 4 assists, 4 rebounds. Really good stat line there from Kobe White. And then Jalen Smith off the bench in 19 minutes, 15 points, 5 of 7 field goals, and 4 of 5 from three-pointer. This guy might be shooting the best percentage from three on the entire
team. I really
team.
like Jalen Smith, man. I know I was talking to some people in my other group chat, about what pieces can stay with the Bulls. If we can get a good team-friendly deal for Jalen Smith, I'd keep him all day. He is a great bench.
I think we have him for 2 more seasons.
We do?
I think, I think he signed a 3-year deal. It was a pretty cheap deal. I think it was around like 45 mil.
I love Jalen Smith on this team. He's one of the big men on this team. One of the only few big men on this team. I like Jalen Smith a lot. But sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all right. Jimmy Butler wasn't the only one to debut this game, correct? I mean, I believe it was also Kevin Huerter and Trey Jones made their Bulls debuts. Unfortunately, we wish they could have had a little bit more of an impact for their first time playing. Kevin Huerter only had 19 minutes. 4 points, 1 of 7 from field goal, and only 1 of 4 from three-pointers. He did get himself 4 rebounds. Trader Jones was a very, very good rising star back in San Antonio as a backup point guard. He had 18 minutes, 0 points, assists. I'm not even sure how many assists he had here.
I don't even. Oh, I forgot to throw that.
No, that's okay. That's my bad too. That's my bad too. And then he had two rebounds. So I'm guessing he had probably somewhere about.
I think it was 4. I think it was 4 assists or something like that.
4 assists, not too bad.
I recall correctly.
Not too bad, but obviously for guard number 6 or 7 on the team, I think it would help a little bit more to have a little bit more scoring. I think we have a lot of passing on this team. the Bulls did score 38 points in the second quarter, and we led 69-55 at halftime. So the Bulls were looking really good. Jimmy Butler did not have a huge game anywhere near at halftime. So the Bulls were playing excellent. We were playing an excellent game, but things, as they go for Chicago, they did fall apart in the second half. The Bulls allowed the Warriors to score 42 points in the third quarter.
That's a lot, man.
That's not the worst part.
That'll get you to lose the game, man.
That's not even the worst part. The Warriors did end up scoring 35 as well in the fourth quarter, and the Warriors shot 50% from the field. I'm not sure if we had this written down here, but wasn't it the second half, I believe, was 67 to 32 or something?
Like, it was almost that double. The Warriors had or something like that?
Yeah, it was one of the largest runs in Warriors history, and it was a pretty impressive run on their part, I will say. So the Warriors did shoot 50% from the field, and the Bulls had 25 fast break points. The points in the paint, the Warriors did end up leading this game with 46 compared to the Bulls 34, and the Bulls were also out-rebounded 44-31. So I look at the way this game looked at halftime, it was pretty promising, and then the way the game looked at the end felt very much as if, this is the simple way that the Bulls games always operate. The Bulls only had 6 offensive rebounds, and then Vooch only had 4 rebounds, which
I know from a guy Peter lost in bet because he sent it to me immediately. Vooch only had 4 rebounds. He needed 6+ or 8+ or something, and that was the last leg. And Vooch only gained 4 rebounds. That's not going to cut it for this Bulls team, unfortunately. Yeah. It is not going to cut. This was unfortunately, this was a bad game for the Bulls, being up that much. But the Warriors have those sharpshooters now. You got Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler's on the team now. You got 2 guys who are number 1 options for this team. Klay Thompson's gone, so somebody had to fill in with that role. Unfortunately for the Bulls, that's just a trend we've seen with this Bulls team, not keeping the lead. Let's look back to game, about a month ago, that Hawks game where we were up 28 points or blew the game. It came down to, the end of the game, and that game just completely got out of hand and the Bulls lost that. But obviously missing key pieces on this team, Zach LaVine's gone. But it's hard. It's hard to keep up with, when you got your superstar gone off the team. This was a tough game for the Bulls. And kind of steering away from that one, the next game was a very tough game for the Bulls. I thought this game was tough. The next game was even tougher. And we'll talk about the Bulls Pistons on Tuesday, February 11th. The Bulls lost this game 132-92. Let's give you guys a little bit of stats with the Bulls' top performers. Modest Buzelis had 12 points, 5 of 7 field goal, 2 of 2 from 3. And Josh Giddey had 11 points, 5 of 10 field goal, 1 of 4 3-pointer. Those were the top performers, everybody. 12 points, 11 points. So let's talk about this game, shall we? I was working at the Chicago Sports Network that night for the Bulls pregame, postgame show and everything like that. This was a rough one, and let's talk about it because the Bulls set a season low for points and a half, 29 points, and then in the second quarter, they only scored 11 points. 11 points won't get you to win games, man. You got to get over that 25, closer to 30. The Bulls trailed the Pistons 71-29 at halftime this game. This halftime deficit for the Bulls tied for the largest in franchise history, being down 71-29. I had to wipe my eyes. I had to do the the SpongeBob
real.
I'm thinking about the SpongeBob thing. Yeah,
dude.
That's what. This was bad. The Bulls shot 35% from the field, while the Pistons shot 53% on the field. They were just hitting everything and anything. They were alley-oop city in the paint, and it was just it was a beatdown for the Bulls. The Bulls shot 21% from three-pointer, 10 of 47, while the Pistons shot 43% from 3. The Bulls shot 63% from the free throw line, which is not a good margin. They shot 12 of 19. And then the Bulls were out-rebounded 55-44. A few more stats on this game for you guys. The Pistons had 17 more defensive rebounds than the Bulls. And the Pistons, this is another game where we saw another team take advantage by, bench points and stuff like that. They had 71 total bench points, while the Bulls scored 90 total points.
Oh, my.
Largest lead the Pistons had this game was 49 points, by the way. So, quick reactions from this game.
Obviously, it's one that we're going to end up forgetting because it's just the way that the Bulls games are looking nowadays. I think the only positive that we can say is that this was a loss. This was a loss, and we should be losing games. the loss looked bad, and it would. I wish it would have looked better if we didn't have these three main pieces still on the team, right? I think if we made a couple more trades, I would have been less,
okay,
the idea of this game, right? But the fact that we still have a full roster and that AK is still looking for the playoffs, losing a game almost down 49 points, almost 50 points is pretty bad. So I think that's my only takeaway. I'm glad we lost.
He did have a quote saying, "We'll see if we make the play-in, whatever. We're like, could be a play-in team." And I don't. What I literally was just talking to Dan on before we got on this podcast is like, Philly, can you guys just win a few more games, man?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I love my Bulls and I want them to win, but I just don't want to see them get smoked in the play-in again, man. We can't watch that again. So, steering away from this Bulls-Pistons game, guess what happened the next day? The Pistons said, you know what? We're in town already. Let's just play one more. Let's play two. So the Pistons actually played on Wednesday, 2 days ago. Bulls versus Pistons at the United Center again. Dan, take away this game, man.
So this game, unfortunately, again, was another loss. 2 straight losses to Detroit. So that on the season, I believe that gives us 0-2 against Detroit. We lost the game 128-110. So another performance by them where they put up over almost 130 points. The Bulls luckily did score over 100 this game. Ayo Dosunmu was the leading scorer for Chicago with 23 points, 9 of 16 from field goals, and 6 assists, 3 rebounds. Nikola Vucevic had a little bit of somewhat of a comeback performance from going from the last couple games here. He did have a double-double, 21 points. He was 1 of 3 from three-pointers, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists. And Tre Jones had his impact play of the year so far for Chicago. Off the bench, 15 points, 5 of 7 from field goal, 2 assists and 2 rebounds. Not a bad stat line.
Good for Tre Jones. I like that. Vooch could get more involved this game. That's good with 21 points. And then Ayo, I like seeing him get involved too. When he gets that starting role, I really like that. But Tre Jones, that piece that I'm not saying key piece, but there was a piece that, in the move with the Zach LaVine trade. I do like him getting 15 points off the bench. I like getting these guys more involved. I do. But give us some stats with this game, man.
Pistons here shot 51% from the field, so that was very similar to the last game they had. The Bulls only shot 43%, which is a lot better than the game we last played, at least. So you can tell by the score, it's a little bit of a closer margin, but we still just didn't have enough. And you can kind of blame maybe a trade with Zach LaVine. That Zach LaVine could have been a little bit of the difference maker for a game like this, but the Bulls only shot only 22% from the three-point line. So it was worse than the game previous. 9 of 41 when we were 10 of 41 the game previous, and the Pistons shot 40% from three. The Bulls were out rebounded 47-37. That's a common theme we've been seeing, especially in the last 4 games. The Pistons dominated in the points in the paint category. The Pistons had 68 points in the paint. The Bulls only had 48.
20 more. That's rough.
That's the difference, right? That's the difference in score, obviously.
That's the difference. Another rough game for the Bulls, but after seeing what the Pistons did on Tuesday, nobody expected the Bulls to potentially walk away with a win on Wednesday. At halftime, it was a very close game. I think it was a 6-point game. The Pistons were up. Unfortunately for the Bulls, the second half for the Bulls, especially this season, has been a little rough. We just haven't been able to perform very well in the second half, but that's it. It's just when you lose Zach LaVine, you don't have that, the superstar power. It's a little hard for the Bulls right now.
Exactly.
So basically to end off Bulls talk for you guys, let's just talk about what the Bears. Oh my God, that we did Bears earlier. What the Bulls are at with their standings right now, what the record is. We'll talk about the next 3 games going into it, and then we'll go right into Blackhawks for you guys. So, Dan, talk about their record real quick.
So right now, the Bulls haven't changed much in terms of seeding, but we have lost 3 straight. So the Bulls are currently 22-33, 10th again in the Eastern Conference, which is where we've been pretty much the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned before, it would be nice to just start losing a couple more games to see us drop more and more. We can talk about pick projections and stuff like that, but with 10th in the Eastern Conference, it looks like we are again stuck at number 10 on the mock draft system. So
and that's why
we can lose a couple more games there.
Yeah, that's why I saw this comment in the chat. That's why I wanted to bring up after we talk about standings and stuff. So obviously he says, Peter's like, I'm not just an NFL guy, but following NBA and NHL draft. Any thoughts on the Bulls needing to target? A need to target in the NBA draft, chances against Cooper Flag on a late season tank, very unlikely in my opinion. It looks like the Sixers can't even lose, even though they have Paul George and Joel Embiid. Or I'm sorry, they can't even win with having Paul George and Joel Embiid. It seems like the Bulls are losing and they're staying at the 10th seed, dude.
Yeah,
it's like
so that's the thing that sucks is that there are teams that are a lot worse than us still. even though how poor the play has been, which is sucks because especially when you lose a game almost by 50 points, you'd expect the team to be bad. But unfortunately, the Bulls team actually the roster isn't that bad in construction wise. So I do think Cooper Flagg is not a viable option for Chicago, but I think anything in the top 5 is doable. Ace Bailey at number 3 is a long shot, but again, that's why they call it the lottery, right? As long as you can get inside the top 10, then you have a chance at number 1. So that's all I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a little bit more of a chance, but either way, if I get under pick 7, I will be happy. The Bears have drafted pretty well, or the Bulls have drafted pretty well when they got in that 7th pick. I think of Wendell Carter, Kobe White, Lauri Markkanen. So definitely some players that are impact players, and I would be pretty happy with anything under 7. So that means got to keep losing games.
I've been seeing Ace Bailey's name flown around a lot with the Bulls, but it is a lottery. It's not like the NFL where you're completely, if you win the Super Bowl, you're pick number 32. If you're the worst team, you're pick number 1. It's a lottery for a reason. That's why the Bulls got, in 2008 or 2009, we got the number 1 pick with Derrick Rose. We had a 1.7% chance. You never know, though, man. You never know. I think the Hawks this season had barely any chance to get the first pick, if I recall. They were they had the same, pretty much the same record as us. I think they were slightly below us.
Yeah,
in that
they were a seed under us,
and they got the number 1 pick because of lottery. So. Yeah, so Cooper Flagg, we'll see what happens with that. But let's talk about the next 3 games with the Bulls, and then we'll get right into Blackhawks hearts. So the Bulls right now are on All-Star break with you. And actually the whole NBA now is now on All-Star break. And if you guys didn't hear at the beginning of that, Miles Buzelis is going to be the Rising Star game tonight for Team M, and then he's going to participate in the AT&T dunk contest tomorrow night. So Buzelis will be representing the Bulls, which is good to always see a Bulls representation or any Chicago representation, which is awesome. And the next 3 games for the Bulls, so they're on a little bit of a break, obviously, because of All-Star break. The next game for the Bulls is not till February 20th, which is going to be next Thursday. And that's going to be Bulls versus New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. So it's going to be a tough game for the Bulls to come back after All-Star break. And then a few days later, which is going to be next Saturday, so a week and a half from now, it's going to be February 22nd, Bulls versus Phoenix Suns, and that's going to be at the United Center. So Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in town. And then on the 24th, so 2 days later, February 24th, the Bulls are going to take on Detroit Pistons again at the United Center. I had to read that one more time to make sure. Like, Pistons can't get enough of the Bulls, man.
Get them out of the United Center like already. Jeez, three games in a month.
So just to recap, we got All-Star, and then we got Knicks. Oh, I just scroll down real quick. Suns and Pistons. So Bulls are on a little bit of a break right now, All-Star break. So yeah, that's pretty much all we got for the Bulls for you guys. And we'll obviously, if we got any other info for you guys, we'll definitely bring that up for you guys with Bulls and everything like that flowing around Twitter. But let's get right into the Blackhawks chat with you guys. So Blackhawks only had 2 games since the last time we saw you guys last week. They had a game against the Nashville Predators. And they also had a game against, hold on, I have to scroll down, the Blues, the St. Louis Blues. So right now, the Blackhawks are 17-31-7 with 41 points. And for like the 4th week in a row, they are the second and last in the league. And San Jose Sharks are the last place team in the league with 41 points. The Hawks are second to last. Dan, start us off with the first Hawks game that we have to talk about, which took place a week ago, last Friday, because last time we met you guys was last Friday, and they did play that night. So let's talk about that game, which is against the Predators.
February 7th, Hawks versus the Nashville Predators in the United Center, so in Chicago. The Hawks ended up winning this game 6-2, a prominent victory there for Chicago. Hawks' Frank Nazar scored 7 minutes into the first period, his 4th goal of the season, assisted by Alex Vlasic, 16th assist, and Teuvo Teravainen.
There you go.
Teravainen, 26th assist in the season. But though 20 seconds later, the Predators end up scoring to tie the game up. And then 15 minutes into the first period, Pat Maroon, the person who leads the Hawks in penalty minutes, right?
Yep.
For the Hawks, scored his 3rd goal of the season, and now the Hawks are up 2-1 in the first intermission. So there's a pretty good start from the Hawks, definitely competing at a high level and kind of matching the intensity. And the second period would be all Hawks, as Tyler has written down here, all Hawks. So the Hawks got a power play 5 minutes into the period, and Connor Bedard did indeed take advantage finally. Bedard scored his 16th goal of the season, assisted by Ryan Donato, his 17th assist, and Seth Jones, his 20th assist, which Seth Jones is quietly putting up some pretty good numbers these last few games here.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, Ryan Donato scored his 17th goal of the season for the Hawks, assisted by Teuvo Teravainen, his 27th of the season, and Frank Nazar getting his 6th assist. And then, with 9 seconds to go in the second period, the Hawks scored again. They got a power play, and Seth Jones delivered with a 6th goal of the season, which was assisted by Ryan Donato, his 18th assist, and Connor Bedard, his 32nd assist, leading the team there.
A lot of passing from Bedard we've been seeing. A lot of passing, but also the last few games we saw with Bedard. Obviously, I don't know if you heard about, but there was a lot of criticism from different reporters with the NHL, something like that, how a lot of people, some of these reporters said Connor Bedard only plays pond hockey, only plays, outside and stuff like that, because, he's from Canada and everything like that. And a lot of people said that he really, took that personally. And now we're seeing Connor Bedard shoot more. And a lot of these people like NHL insiders and stuff like that are like, oh, okay, Bedard's finally shooting more, which is great for Connor Bedard. I like seeing him pass it. He's really skillful with passing, but we didn't draft him to pass.
Yeah.
Draft him to shoot the puck and you'll get these goals.
Get him
but he did get his 32nd assist, which that's a lot of assists for Bedard. It is
indeed. So if you guys haven't kept up with what the score of this game is at this point, at the end of the second intermission or going into the second period intermission, the Hawks are up 5-1 at this point. At the beginning of the third period, the Hawks would score one more time. Ryan Donato has scored his 2nd goal of the game and his 18th goal of the season, assisted by Alex Vlasic, his 17th assist of the season. And the Predators did score one more time towards the end of the period, but the Hawks secured the victory and finished the game with 6 goals. Hawks beat Predators in United Center 6-2.
Great game for the Hawks. They took advantage right away. Obviously, getting the goals in the first and then, getting 3 goals in the second. This was a great game for the Hawks. The Predators are a good team as well. They've been a playoff team for the last few years. This was a very good game for the Blackhawks. That's what I really like seeing out of them. So some game stats for you guys with this game, talking about, the Predators and stuff like that. So the Hawks had 3 power play opportunities. And with those 3 power play opportunities, the Hawks scored twice. So very good margin, 66% with that. That is awesome margin for the Hawks. The Predators had 3 power play opportunities this game, and they scored 0 times. So great defense, great penalty kill for the Blackhawks there. The Predators had 14 giveaways this game. So lots of giveaways, giving the Blackhawks opportunities on the offensive side of the puck and, to eliminate the Predators' offensive side as well. But great game for the Hawks. I was really excited with the Hawks and how they performed this game. And let's talk about the other game the Hawks had, which was the day after, which they did back-to-back. So Friday and then last Saturday for you guys, which is the Hawks versus the St. Louis Blues. And this would be in St. Louis. There's a tough atmosphere to play in. The St. Louis fans really do show up. It is a hard, atmosphere to play in. The Hawks unfortunately lost this game 6-5, but they did score 5 goals.
They scored 5 goals.
That is good for the Hawks. This was a tough game for the Hawks. Let's talk about it a little bit. So the Hawks scored twice in the first period, which is really good for the Hawks, getting up ahead. 5 minutes in the first period, Craig Smith scored his 7th goal of the season, and that was assisted by Pat Maroon, his 10th, and Alec Martinez, his 5th assist of the season. 40 seconds later, Ryan Donato scored his 19th goal of the season, and that was assisted by Connor Bedard, his 33rd assist. Another assist for Bedard, another point. We'd love to see that, Dan, right? We'd love to see that.
Happy with that.
So Hawks are going up 2-0 going into the first period intermission break. So up 2 goals, which is great for the Hawks. The second period, unfortunately, was all St. Louis Blues. They scored 3 times in the second period. They wanted the momentum and they got it back in that second period. Twice in the first 2 minutes of the second period. And so they went up. Blues were up 3-2 heading in the second period intermission break. Now going into the third period for the Hawks, the 3 minutes into the third period, the Hawks got the equalizer, tying it up 3-3. Alec Martinez scored his 4th goal of the season, assisted by Teuvo Teravainen's 28th. And Elon Mikheyev scoring his 8th assist getting his 8th assist of the season. 30 seconds later, after that Hawks goal, the Blues put up another goal against them. And then a few minutes after that, the Hawks would score again. So this was a back and forth matchup, man. 1 goal difference and stuff like that. Teuvo Teravainen scored his 12th goal of the season, assisted by Nick Foligno, his 13th, and Mikheyev his 9th assist this season. So back-to-back assists for Mikheyev. Great job on Mikheyev's end. And then 11 minutes into the third period, Mikheyev would score his 10th goal of the season, putting the Hawks up by 1. And that was assisted by Nick Foligno, his 14th, and Alex Vlasic, his 18th assist of the season. So Mikheyev was all over on the ice, man. Few assists, gain a goal. Great job for Mikheyev this game. And then kind of heading toward the end of this game, what kind of happened toward the end of this game with the Hawks? 4 minutes later, the Blues would tie this game up. They would score again, and this game would head to overtime. And obviously, NHL rules with the overtime. It's 3v3 overtime. Unfortunately, well, you can say unfortunately or fortunately, nobody scored in that 3v3 5-minute overtime. So this game would go to a shootout. And Dan, how did this shootout go, man?
So the shootout, obviously, when you start matching up players on a shootout, it can go any way, any direction. But the shootout would go 10 rounds, and the Blues, unfortunately, did execute the game-winning goal, and the Hawks would end up losing in the shootout and finish the score 6-5. But I will say the Hawks in the last 2 games putting up 11 goals is a pretty interesting stat there. So I'd love to see how this next game is going to play out. It's very, very soon.
Yeah. So obviously losing in a shootout, but you do get that point, obviously getting to the overtime. That's good for the Hawks. Obviously, they are toward the bottom of the, standing and stuff like that, but we still want teams to compete, Rand.
Yeah.
Even if it's, talking about, we're just talking about the Bulls not wanting to compete. I still want to give them a win or two, against a decent team. That would be good. But, the Hawks putting up a good game against, obviously the St. Louis Blues. This was a good game for the Hawks, in my opinion, even though they lost. So just a few quick game stats with this game for you guys with the Blues and the Hawks. The Hawks were outshot 40-20. So, but, obviously the game was a very close back and forth goal to goal game. The Blues had 27 hits on the Hawks, and the Blackhawks had 25 giveaways this game. So that's pretty much all the stats we got for you guys with the Hawks and the Blues. So only 2 games to cover. Now the Blackhawks and the whole entire NHL are now on the 4 Nations face-off break. No, like if you guys were with us last week, no NHL game this year for the Hawks. They're doing something a little bit different. 4 Nations face-off. Got 4 different countries playing in a little tournament, which is going to be, I think this is really cool. I like it a lot. I like the idea a lot. A lot of people don't like the NHL All-Star, how it kind of works and stuff. A lot of people like the game. A lot of people don't like the skills contest and stuff like that. That's what I've been reading on Twitter. But now all of the teams are going to be on a break until February 22nd when a lot of the hockey comes back. Speaking about that 4 Nations face-off, we do have one Blackhawks player that is being represented in one of these rosters for you. Blackhawks player Teuvo Teravainen is on Team Finland, which is super cool that the Blackhawks have a player representing one of these rosters. There's only, but 30 out of 32 teams have players represented in these NHL face-offs. So there's 2 teams. I forgot to look up what teams don't have a player being represented, but 30 out of 32 teams, and Teuvo Teravainen will skate for Finland, which they played yesterday. Finland did lose against the United States, but I looked, Teravainen didn't really put up too many stats in that game, but it's cool that he's still on the roster, right, man?
Yeah, of course. Represent.
But I did see some in the chat, and that's actually what we're going to get to right now with the NHL and stuff like that. And that's basically talking about, the NHL trade deadline's coming up. And I did see Peter kind of throw in the chat over here. He did say, Ryan Donato is a free agent after this year, and is having obviously a really solid year with the Blackhawks. And then with the Blackhawks, sucking, not doing too well, it would be smart to flip Donato for some, capital or young prospects. I do agree with this, man. I think, getting some more capital, but I like Ryan Donato. I really do. He is a great piece for this, Blackhawks team. I just hate to see him go, but that's how I felt about Zach LaVine with the Bulls. That's kind of the same mentality I feel with that.
Yeah, unfortunately, if the goal is to win more games, and he's been playing very, very well, there has to be some sort of a change, to win more games. So I can definitely see him on his way out, but I could also just as equally see him staying. So it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of plays out for him.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So let's kind of get into that with, Blackhawks and the trade deadline. So if you guys didn't know, the NHL trade deadline happens a little bit later than the NBA one. The NBA one just happened last week. The NHL trade deadline is coming up on March 7th, so less than a month. So that's coming up. Players to watch for the Blackhawks that potentially they may move by the trade deadline. I went on a bunch of different articles. I pulled a bunch of different players that we can kind of see. Let's talk about them. So one name, obviously, Peter just talked about in the chat that the Hawks could potentially move forward, Ryan Donato. And we have a few other names talking about it. Left winger, Pat Maroon, defenseman, Seth Jones, and one more defenseman, Connor Murphy. These are the names I've been seeing flowing around with the Blackhawks at the trade deadline. We'll see what happens with them. Obviously, we did see the Hawks do a trade a few weeks ago, trading away, oh my God, can't think of his name off the top of my head. I gotta look. This is gonna drive me. But I had it. Oh my God, what was his name? He got traded at the trade deadline for Taylor Hall. That came right to my head. He got traded. That was a big piece. The Hawks got a few years ago. He did end up getting injured last season. Tore his ACL, was out for the year. Taylor Hall did get traded from the Hawks. We'll see if they end up moving any more, pieces with this team before March 7th. But Dan, talk about the next 3 games for the Blackhawks.
Of course. So obviously at the moment, if you are interested in watching any more games, that Four Nations Face-Off is happening as we speak. So definitely go tune in there. Unfortunately, the USA versus Finland game did already pass. So the next 3 games going on for the Hawks here is going to be on the 22nd of February, which is next Saturday. The Hawks will play the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus. The day after, next Sunday on the 23rd, the Hawks will be facing the Toronto Maple Leafs back here at home in the United Center, and then taking another trip 2 days after that on the 25th of February. The Hawks will play the Utah Hockey Club in Utah. So that should be a pretty fun game. I think it's the first time they've played the Utah Hockey Club. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That would be fun. Yeah, that's going to be a fun little matchup there. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to just see the Hawks have a new travel schedule to Utah for a team in Utah.
Yeah.
Those are the next 3 for the Hawks.
Yeah. This is, obviously they're on a little bit of a break now, which will be, good for the Hawks to settle down a little bit. The 2 nations face off, Four nations face off. Give these players a little bit of a break. Obviously, Teravainen's going to be there, but Blue Jackets, that's another team that hasn't been performing really well. I could see the Hawks take advantage there. Maple Leafs are one of those teams that always make the playoffs and then eventually lose in the first round. So we'll see what happens there. Utah Hockey Club's another team that hasn't been performing really well. I could see the Hawks run away with a win there. So 2 wins, 3 wins. We'll see what happens with the Hawks. 1 win. You never know with these Hawks or even any of these Chicago teams, man. Yeah. But I do see a few things in the chat here. We got Paul saying D&T, baby. Love it, Paul. What's up, Paul? Thanks for tuning in, man. And we do see Peter talking a little bit about that, the NHL trade deadline. Connor Murphy is still on the Hawks. I thought he was on the Maple Leafs. I just checked as soon as you said that. Connor Murphy is still on the Blackhawks. He is still on the Blackhawks. Unless I'm wrong. He's saying, oh, sorry. Thinking of Jake McCabe. Murphy was an IR, and that's why I didn't hear too much about him. I gotcha. I gotcha. But that is pretty much all it for Blackhawks talk for you guys, or Blackhawks chat for you guys. Now, to end off this podcast, let's get into some other Chicago sports news. We're going to end off with some fun facts for you, and we'll let you get on with your Valentine's Day and then your weekend for you. So, Dan, start us off with a little bit of some other Chicago sports news.
Yeah, so covering some miscellaneous Chicago sports, and these are usually surrounding the teams that are currently not playing, so we don't have to cover any games. Cubs manager Craig Counsell said that an MRI exam showed a mild strain to the left oblique of pitcher Javier Assad, which he'll be shut down from throwing until symptoms do get better. But the manager expressed optimism that the pitcher would be back throwing here soon, hopefully there for the start of the season.
Yeah, I saw that. Unfortunate for Javier Assad to be sidelined, but they're saying that he will come back toward the end of spring training, which will be great for the Cubs.
Yeah.
A few more Cubs news for you guys. Chicago Cubs manager Craig Counsell announced that Shota Imanaga will start one of the games in the Tokyo series to start the season against the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is great for Shota. I know he's going to want to pitch back in his home country. That's great for Shota Imanaga. Really happy that we saw this news that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that's
also,
nice.
One more injury news that I forgot to throw in the chat here. We got the news today that Potential third baseman for the Cubs, Matt Shaw, is going to start not start the season. I'm sorry. He's going to be day to day right now with a oblique injury. I know he injured that, I believe, yesterday. He's going to be day to day. He's going to be observed a little bit. So let's, it's just the start of spring training. Pitchers and catchers just reported yesterday. Let's let him get healthy. He potential starting third baseman for the Cubs. So yeah, I forgot to put that in here, but Matt Shaw is going to start, be looked at the last few days. Dan, talk about a little bit more of the news for us.
All right, so some upcoming things coming here for the Cubs. They released their 2025 promotional schedule, which we covered the White Sox one last week, which they had some interesting things. So let's see how the Cubs rank among some of the items that they have for the 2025 giveaways include a Shota Imanaga bobblehead, a Cubs pet toys, a Greg Maddux 1988 rain delay slide bobblehead, which
it's a cool.
Really cool, interesting.
It is really cool. Belly dive. I love it. I
saw one that I forgot what it was, but it was a garden gnome. Wasn't one of them a garden gnome? I might be thinking of a different team, but Dansby Swanson also has a flow headband. If just the flow headband.
It's his hair on a headband, and it's his.
I'm glad you explained that because I was confused on what that might have been.
If you guys haven't seen, I wish I can pull up pictures and stuff like that. Go to Twitter. That's all I got to say. Just go to Twitter, go look at the headband. I think it's going to be super cool. It's going to be a sellout. I could see this sell for hundreds of dollars on eBay if people decide to resell it. One of those things, but I think it's super cool. And there's more things that you guys, we're not going to list everything. There's lots of things. They have Hawaiian shirts, they have other stuff, but Cubs and White Sox always do really well with their promotional giveaways. And it's good. It's really cool that it's really cool that they give away a polo and obviously you guys know that if you guys don't know, I do work over at the Cubs. It's cool when everybody in the stands are wearing those same things. You know what I mean?
Especially when
it's a bleacher giveaway. When it's a bleacher giveaway, only people have bleacher tickets get them. So everybody in the whole entire bleachers has that polo tank top on or whatever. But
very cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool different promotional things. I see a different thing in the chat here. We'll bring this up right now. Spicy take here. How do we feel about Trevor Bauer in the MLB? I know he's been blacklisted in the MLB and signed a contract with a Japanese team, but Peter loves him and he can provide some juice. It's hard for a team to, re-sign him after what happened to him. Obviously there was the whole, the whole trial with Trevor Bauer and stuff like that. It's going to be hard for a team to rebuy him. I know he's doing really well in Japan and stuff, but
I think the big problem with Chicago is that we're a big market, and unfortunately, big markets get affected the most heavily, and it also affects with the way that other players would be, promoting him as a player. So I think it's best to probably stay away. We see this in football happen all the time when people get a second chance, and unfortunately, the second chance never quite pans out. So I think unfortunately, he may be best played in remaining in that Japanese league.
I could see him on an MLB team, but like you said, maybe not a Chicago one. Chicago teams usually try to steer clear from players that have had past history and stuff like that. But yeah, Dan, talk about. I think we got one more.
The
Chicago
last thing here
for you guys. I know Peter's excited about this one because he is a White Sox fan.
Last team that we haven't talked about yet, if you guys haven't guessed, the White Sox. The White Sox have signed center fielder Michael A. Taylor.
Sorry, I misspelled it.
Michael Taylor. Michael A. Taylor.
My bad.
And first baseman Joey Gallo. So Michael A. Taylor and first baseman Joey Gallo.
My bad.
No, that's all good.
Yeah, so the White Sox are in the phase of trying to sign more players right now and stuff like that, with pitchers, catchers, other stuff. But Joey Gallo is a good veteran presence for this White Sox team. And I like the Michael A. Taylor signing a lot for the White Sox. I think that's a great signing for them. I really do. But yeah, so kind of steering away from the other Chicago sports news, we got one more topic to bring up for you guys, which is we always end off with a little bit of fun facts for you. Chicago sports fun facts. Dan, start us off with a fun fact.
All right, so this is the one that Tyler reminded me that I should have added. So this one's actually pretty darn exciting. The last time the Chicago Bulls have had a player in the dunk contest was 2006/7, and that was for Tyrus Thomas. He did not win the slam dunk contest that year. The last winner for Chicago was actually Michael Jordan in 1988. So it has been way over 30 years the last time the Bulls have won a dunk contest, and it's been well over 19 years since we've had someone be in it. So it would be very cool to see Manas run away with the slam dunk contest champion.
That's a cool stat, man. It's been since 1988 since a Bulls player won. Wow. I know if you guys didn't know, we forgot to bring this up with talk about Modest Buzelis, talking about that dunk contest. He did say that he is bringing out a few dunks that nobody has ever seen before. That's what he said. He talked about it. He's really excited. He said he's not going there to lose. He wants to win. So I really like it. I never saw what the betting is and who's favored. I can try to look at that real quick. But they usually, have betting. What's his name's back in it, so he's probably favored. Mac McClung,
yeah, whatever.
He's always...
That's the same thing with Dame Lillard getting invited to the 3-point contest. Yeah. It's like, give me a break, dude. Yeah, he's not the best. He hasn't been the best 3-point shooter for a few years now.
Here we go. Like Kobe White could have made it. Who we got is the favorite? Mac McClung at -190, and the second running at +490. Modest Buzelis.
Hey, I like him to win.
+490. If you guys want to make some money, throw some money. +490. Modest Buzelis. But the last fun fact for you guys, this fun fact, we're talking about this day in Chicago sports history, but we thought we were going to come to you guys yesterday with this podcast, so I threw this in there, and I double-checked to see if there was anything that I could find with Bulls and Hawks in this day of Chicago sports history. I could not find anything. So we're going to go back to yesterday in Chicago sports history.
Sounds good.
In 1994, in Chicago sports history, yesterday, the 44th NBA All-Star game took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Danny knows Minneapolis very well.
I know Minneapolis quite well, actually.
He knows well. And I drive when I go to North Dakota. When I go there once a year, I drive through Minneapolis every year. 6-hour drive to Minneapolis. Yeah. I do that every year. But in this game for the 44th NBA All-Star game in 1994, the East beat the West 127-118. And the reason why you guys are probably like, why is this Chicago sports news? The MVP of this game was Chicago Bulls forward Scottie Pippen. He ended this All-Star game with 29 points, 9 of 15 field goal, 5 of 9 3-point with 11 rebounds. He also played more minutes than any other player in that All-Star game with 31 points. And all you guys are like, where was Michael Jordan at this time? Why was he not the MVP? Well, if you guys don't know anything or haven't watched The Last Dance, Michael Jordan was not in the NBA during this All-Star game. He took a break after his a break from the NBA after his father's death, and then decided to try baseball. And he signed with the White Sox on February 7th, 1994. So about a week prior, he signed with the White Sox in 1994.
Wow.
There's your bubble today with your Chicago sports fun facts.
Pretty wild, man. Chicago's a wild place for sports, and a lot of MJ this week. Just this from like the last Chicago fun facts. So hopefully, Modest Buzelis can get that dunk contest, so we don't have to keep talking about the MJ dunk contest. Go Modest.
Go Modest.
And that was actually a pretty good bet from your end there, Tyler, because I'm looking at the Modest Buzelis slam dunk contest winner, and that looks pretty juicy to me. So I think I might hop on that.
+490, throw a few bucks. You never know. You can get throw $5. You can get yourself you and your lady some lunch or something. Huh?
There's a $10 bonus bet going on right now too.
There you go. But that is all of the info we got for you guys today. We spent a good amount of time getting you guys some info about the Hawks, the Bulls, Bears, other sports. There's a lot of things going on with Chicago sports, but this week with the Bulls and the Hawks is going to be a little bit light. Besides, All-Star break with Modest Buzelis, talking a little bit about Teuvo Teravainen and the Four Nations face-off with the Bulls and the Hawks. And we'll see what the Bears do in the next week. I don't expect a lot out of the Bears, but whatever info we got for you guys with the Hawks, Bulls, anything around, we'll definitely bring you guys that information for you guys. We love to bring you guys the best with Chicago sports. We'd love to talk about this. We like bringing you guys every week. We love when you guys tune in.
This is our dream job, guys. This is what we love doing.
We've been doing that. If you guys didn't notice, we haven't been doing this since college. We took a little bit of break after college. We were trying to figure out our careers and stuff like that. One day I woke up, I said, let's do this podcast again. And now we have these cool websites where he's in Chicago, I'm in the suburbs. This is cool. We don't have to be in the same room. We tried doing it one time where we sat across the table from each other. That was so hard.
Recording it was very difficult. Yeah,
it was,
I remember that.
Because my voice was bleeding into his mic, and it was like, oh my God. But this is cool that we get this website that we can kind of, do this right here, and it's already live streams to YouTube, and we'd love to do this for you guys. So you guys can always shoot us a text. We'd love to, please subscribe, please comment. We'd love to anything you guys do, anything for us to improve, the podcast. We always are open to recommendations. Like I said before, we love bringing you guys the best with Chicago sports. And before we sign off, is there anything you want to talk about, Dan, or anything you want to say?
Nothing much, but other than the world misses Virginia McCaskey, and we miss her back. Hopefully, the Bears management can definitely find some footing after that situation and kind of use it as strength to power into this next season. That would be great. Yeah. So, R.I.P. Virginia.
R.I.P. Virginia McCaskey.
Still repping Virginia.
Yeah. Well, we thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank Peter, Paul, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys, if you guys are watching afterwards, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, please comment, let us know. And, we'll be back next week talking about, might be a shorter podcast next week, unfortunately, just because there's not a lot going on.
Bulls,
like we just
Hawks,
talked about. Yeah. No Bulls, no Hawks. Bears will probably be light with information, but we'll try to get you what we can with this news and stuff like that. But hope you guys enjoy your Valentine's Day tonight. Enjoy your weekend. And enjoy next week. Tune into the Four Nations Face-Off. It's going to be really cool. I know the United States won yesterday, so super cool for the United States. And, keep up to date with all the Bears news. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.
UC chat, whatever.
Go Bulls.
Horns, go Bulls. But thank you guys again. Enjoy your weekend. And, enjoy your Friday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, dude.
Cool. Nice.
115. That seems like what we.
That seems like the average. Yeah, that seems like the average.